Welcome back. You're watching Point of View, and my special guest is Ian Blackman. He's a lawyer and author from Rotorua, and his book Keeping Farming in the Family, a guide to succession planning, a vital element in farming these days. And Ian, farmers traditionally probably not the greatest of communicators. When's a good time to start this whole process of succession?
Predictably, I'm going to say you start as soon as you can. My solution lies in having the right legal structure, and that is a trading company with the shares in the company owned by a discretionary trust. We actively support the New Zealand Dairy Industry Awards, and one of the reasons we do that is to get in early with the shareholders and talk to them about the right legal structures. So I don't think it's ever too early to put the legal structures in place, and I also think that if the parents around the kitchen table and on an ongoing basis talk to all of the children when they're young about succession, we're not going to have what we have at the moment through lack of communication, which is non-succeeding children being influenced by the urban view that things should be shared equally, because they understand within the culture of the family that succession is going to happen.
So was it easier in the older days?
It was really.
They just said, well, this is the way it is, tough. You know?
But in a sense, I'm dragging the farming families back to that. Make a decision, it's your decision, don't let anybody else tell you how to make your decision. You know what is fair. Don't let mores from other parts of the community influence your decision.
What about the situation where you've got the oldest boy, let's say, and then you've got, say, 2 or 3 other boys, and they all want to be farmers. So what do? Do you cut the farm up?
Well, you can do, but I find that farmers that are communicating well and driving their family and business will find a solution. Farmers are very good problem solvers, and they're innovative. They need to be. They're solving problems every day. And so, as a general rule, the farmers that see that one or more than one of their children want to go farming, plan early and use the farm that they own to gear off purchase of other farms. So that's quite common. The more than one child is not necessarily that common, but where there is more than one child that wants to go farming, I see frequently families realising early that that is the case and building their business to a size that enables each child to have a farm.
What about the eldest daughter, perhaps? You know, and she obviously marries someone and wants to bring her husband onto the farm. Again, is that an issue? Can that
no, it's not really an issue in the sense that from the parents' point of view, their emotional needs are met through having a succession plan in place. The issue for them is the daughter and the son-in-law up to farming the property in a manner that ensures the plan is viable. Gender is never an issue. It's their ability to do it.
Is there enough advice around the country, good advice, apart from your book?
There's plenty of good advice, but I don't think there was, certainly prior to my writing the book, I felt that there wasn't enough, which is the reason for writing it. And you know, this opportunity to talk to you, Mark, is another way of me making that commitment to the community of getting the message out about the fact that it's possible.
These days, of course, you know, if you're starting out and you're wanting to buy a farm, it's near enough to impossible, isn't it? You know,
well,
it's always share milking or something.
Yeah, exactly. I think in the dairy industry, it's increasingly viable and
not easy, but viable.
Not exactly, not easy. It's a lot of hard work, and I think we've got quite a group of young share milkers from the good payout and the good seasons in the past that are looking to get out of share milking and buy farms. So I'm predicting that that wave of profitability from the good seasons and the high payout will see a lot of good young share milkers buying farms. But it's not easy, and it's particularly hard on sheep and beef because the returns on sheep and beef have been less than spectacular, certainly not at the level of the dairy industry, and so they struggle. It's a lot easier, though, I have to say, at a child of a farming family to succeed to a farm than it is for someone from town to go out, get experience and then buy a farm.
So what's we start, early. This is the first tip, start early.
Yes, start early.
Discussion, and as you say, as the kids are growing up, that discussion around the table, so that they're all aware.
Yeah, exactly. That's really important.
What else would you advise?
I would advise that they all read my book and have a really good understanding of where the family's going. I think that comes from the top. I think the parents need to get the information that they have to have in order to devise a plan and make sure that the business plan and the family plan are well understood and are going to be implemented. So we're talking to families some young families that don't have children and some young families that have very young children, and we don't know whether they want to go farming or not. But it's an issue that these young people are very well aware of.
Governance over the farm is also an issue for many families, looking at it as a business. Is this the best way forward?
It is definitely the best way forward, because a company is a trading business structure. It's been devised over the last 350 years. It works. There are thousands of companies in this country, and the structure that the company represents is the perfect structure for farmers that want good governance and want to operate their farm as a proper business. So you've got the shareholders of the company saying to the directors, we want you to achieve these objectives, and you've got the directors meeting from time to time in a board, recording their decisions, allocating the responsibilities, allocating a time frame. And I'm not suggesting that they need board meetings all the time of the kind that you have with large corporates. I'm just talking about a little bit more rigour in recording decisions, having meetings, and doing it more formally.
How do farmers cope with the idea of bringing outsiders?
They don't like it. They don't like the idea of having board meetings.
Yeah.
They don't like the idea of bringing in independent board members. And whilst there are some advantages for some farmers of doing that, particularly the farmers that own 2 or 3 or 10 farms. I think having an independent director is a good idea, but it's not essential. What is essential is that they use the corporate structure and the rules that apply to a corporate structure to their benefit, and that's all about planning.
So basically you're suggesting that the farm, a rural farm, is a bit like a city business.
Exactly right.
And it should be treated exactly the same. Is that a bit of a sea change? Or?
It is a bit of a change. Yeah, it is a bit of a change. But there are...
Is it because of the value of the asset, basically, has now become so great that,
that it should be operated profitably and properly. Yeah. And I know Dairy NZ and Federated Farmers and all of those organisations that are guiding farming are really looking carefully at governance, and I think the company owning the land, the livestock, the plant and machinery, and employing the directors is by and far the best way to ensure proper governance of this business.
What about smaller units?
It's a problem. One of the issues that I've had with very small farms is that one of the prerequisites to a good plan is viability. And one of the tests of viability is ensuring that the income that the farm generates is sufficient for 2 families, the parents who are retiring and the succeeding child. So if you're running 2,500 stock units out of Taumarunui and earning $30,000 a year, I don't see that a plan of a kind that I'm suggesting is viable. But anything is possible. I mean, the more ambitious farmer is going to say, we need to get to 5,000 stock units in the next 5-10 years. How do we do it? So anything is possible.
Yeah. Intriguing, really. The whole thing. It reminds me a bit of the Queen and Prince Charles. That
the takeover.
When's she going to go? Sort of thing. And that's also a bit of an issue with the parents on the farm, and probably not really that keen. They probably hit their 60s, and in some cases not really. They quite like living there. It's the family home, all that sort of stuff.
I think the threshold, especially in the dairy industry, but also in the sheep and beef industry, is the physical ability of generally the father or the husband to do the physical work.
Get out there in the morning and check the stock.
And I find in dairy farming it's around 50 years of age, and in sheep and beef it's around 55, 60, where they physically can't do it to the level that they want to do it or need to do it. And so they need a good, young, keen man. And the perfect candidate for that is a child. Exactly. They've been brought up on the farm. They know farming. and the genetics.
Yeah.
If the father's a good farmer.
50, eh? It's pretty
Yeah.
young.
But I'm talking dairy farming where you're standing in a
4
concrete
o'clock in the morning.
pit
Cold.
twice a day.
All
It's
year.
tough.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
I really admire farmers and the physical effort that they go to do what they do. Quite incredible.
Is there a place to go? I mean, okay, you can go to the bookshop and buy your book. Is there a website?
There's a website. It's simply a Gmail address which takes from the title of the book, which is Keeping Farming in the Family @gmail.com. But again, I'm able to be contacted through the web, BlackmanSpargo Rural Law Limited. Our firm is the only firm in New Zealand that specialises exclusively in the rural sector, and I'm always available to help farming families.
And you're not just in the Bay of Plenty. I mean, you want.
No, I'm all over New Zealand.
You're delivering the messages.
Yeah. But we've got clients from the top of the North Island to the bottom of the South Island, principally in the dairy industry, but also in sheep and beef. And apple orchards and kiwi fruit, you know.
I mean, there's all of that as well.
Exactly.
Different things.
Yeah. I recently helped a family with 9 kiwi fruit orchards into a succession plan where 2 sons are taking over the orchard and the other 2 sons are getting on with their careers.
And it's all working.
It's all working brilliantly. Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, the continuation of the farm and the financial viability of the farm depends on the young people coming through, and that farm has funded the education of the non-succeeding children. If you take all those factors into account and you apply the test, what is fair, I think succession is very achievable for most farming families.
So Ian, what price do you put on the heritage of the farm, the fact that perhaps the farm's been in a family for generations?
Well, I think it's a really important point, Mark, that the value of the farm as it stands on the death of the surviving parent represents 3 or 4 generations often of hard work, blood and sweat.
To tame it, yeah.
To tame it and to turn it into, and every farmer that I know, every good farmer that I know has a commitment to leave the farm in a better condition than it was when he got it.
Yeah.
Now, if a non-succeeding child is saying, I'm entitled to a quarter or a half or a third of that farm, I think they're ignoring the fact that this is a farm that represents the hard work of successive generations, not just his or her parents.
And the succeeding farmer, he who takes over or she who take over, they're stuck on that farm. The others can go off and have great lives in the city and do what they like.
And if succession is an important part and part of the culture of the family, that succeeding child is never going to see the millions of dollars that the land represents. Because if we get it right, and we are getting it right, there is already a plan in place that they know will work for it to succeed to the next generation.
Indeed, yeah. What about the other vexed issue of foreign ownership and corporate farming?
Well, I think it's a potential issue, and I wrote the book in part, and I comment in my book on corporate farming. I don't want a failure of a family to find a solution to succession planning to leave that vacuum that enables corporates to come in and buy farms because families haven't found a way to keep it in the family. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, the book is, once again, Keeping Farming in the Family, a guide to succession planning. The author is Ian Blackman, and it's a fascinating read and well worth the effort. You should go and get one of those copies. And thank you, Ian, for being on the program. And that's another point of view for another week. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to your company next time.